Update: my wife, a 27-year-old female, is going on a work trip with an ex-friends with benefits. I am a 28-year-old male, find it concerning. My wife and I have been together for 4 years and married for 2 years. She works in an international consulting group, which means she's usually out of the country at least a week or two every couple months. I don't mind since I like having some alone time and playing video games or whatnot. She told me early on in our relationship that right before we started dating, she had a fling with her then boss. She kind of regretted it, but he moved departments for unrelated reasons. I know she didn't have to tell me this, but me being curious asked more questions, and she told me that had screwed up on a couple work trips and in the office. She was 22 at the time, and now she realized how dumb it could have been. According to her, it was fully consensual. Now, 5 years later, her new boss retired, and her previous friends with benefits boss took over. I asked her how she felt knowing what took place, and she didn't seem concerned. They have a good working relationship, she told me, and what happened was a long time ago. About 2 weeks ago, she told me she is going to the Philippines with him potentially because a project there is behind schedule. They will fly there with a team of their co-workers to sort things out and be back in a few days. I feel a little on edge, but there is not really much to be suspicious about. I just trust her. She has been nothing but upfront and honest in our relationship. Now a week out, she tells me the plans have kind of changed. It's just her and him going together while the other people have obligations. It's now going to be longer than a few days, and she told me he asked her if she wanted to stay an extra day to go snorkeling. I freeze for that moment and completely agree to it. I don't think she posed it as a question either. Only after this conversation do I think of what she actually said. Now I'm worried after I started thinking about their past and how they will be in a tropical location together and drinking as well as even snorkeling. I feel jealous and insecure and almost want to ask if she would consider staying home. On the other hand, during 4 years of being with her, she's never given me any reason to not trust her. She's even been very honest about this trip. I feel like I should let her go and trust her. I don't want to be the jealous husband who's trying to prevent her from cheating and messing with her career. If she really wants to chat, she can anyway, no matter if I try to stop it. Is this thinking off base or should I confront her now? Now for the top of comments before reading the update. Snorkeling and anything non-work related is a huge no-no. Bad idea. Bad idea. I honestly can't believe she would even plan to do something like that given the history. It's inconsiderate and disrespectful to the marriage. Complete disregard of OP's feelings. Of course I would be on edge. What does snorkeling have to do with a business trip anyway? It's worse if she didn't even ask OP if he would be okay with it. In fact, I would never even have the audacity to think about doing something like that and then ask in the first place. It's suspicious. OP should definitely put his foot down and let her know this is not okay. I'm glad you said that. I wouldn't sell my partner, felt secure. But then how cool would it be smoking in another country? But how uncool to hurt my husband. And maybe I show Ola on that trip with him. I don't know their finances, but it seems like they could do that together, or someone she does have a relationship with, not a fling. I'm not saying one should ruin a marriage for one day snorkeling, but doesn't this say she doesn't respect him? Am I overreaching? Now for the update. Update. So the update everyone didn't want, including me. She cheated on the trip. When I wrote the post, she had already gone to the West Coast to spend time with her family before continuing on to her work trip. So I really didn't have time to talk to her about it again. I decided to let her make her own decisions and live with whatever she chose to do. She went, texted me like normal, acted like normal, said she loved me and called me. Obviously I'm worried, but I decided to just trust her. She came back and acted completely normal, actually more loving and caring than she usually was, and seemed happier, to be honest. A couple weeks go by and I am messing around on her phone looking at all her photos, including from her trip. I'm not even thinking of stopping as she's right next to me. I joke around and click on recently deleted, and she freaks out and grabs the phone from me. I immediately got suspicious. She is obviously trying to hide the phone. She said it's her private phone. I say I need to see the phone now. She starts crying and saying no. Arguing goes on for a while. It's exhausting and so hard. I already know what happened, but now she's trying to trick the truth and saying something about a photo on her phone that was an accident, which makes zero sense. I stay firm and say I need to see the phone. After probably an hour or two of arguing, she finally hands me the phone and unlocks the recently deleted photos. A ton of NDE photos of her obviously taken by him in bed and in compromising positions, even some including him and her in bed naked, including a couple screw acts. I couldn't even believe what I was seeing when I saw her like that. She's crying very hard, saying it was all a mistake, and it means nothing. I asked for the full truth eventually. She told me some B story where it seems like a drunk mistake. This pissed me off even more as it's obvious that wasn't the case. To me, it looks like this was a full-blown affair. How would you have this on your phone from a one-night stand? The stories keep changing, classic trickle truth, even bringing up how I joked about an open relationship at one point, how it means nothing, and she was having a midlife crisis, how she felt I wasn't interested in screw, and this was just something to get off on intention, and it didn't mean anything, etc., etc. She was unable to actually give me an honest account of what happened. This is despite me actually having a slight desire of wanting to forgive her. All I wanted was full honesty, and she can't do it. I think probably because she knows full honesty would be unforgettable. I decided to stay with some family in the meantime. She keeps blowing up my phone and wants to try counseling. I am pretty sure this is the end. Don't know if I need a lawyer, as she is very wealthy and I have nothing. Don't want anything from her, so that's where I am at now. I wanted to post to let other people know this stuff is possible. And even though you could fully trust someone, they can have the capability to lie straight to your face. If I didn't see her phone, I think I would have never known, or if she was smart enough to actually permanently delete her NDS with her boss. Story 2. Am I the a-hole if I uninvited my sister-in-law, who's in love with my husband? Am I the a-hole if I uninvited my 32-year-old female sister-in-law and 30-year-old female, I'll call her Tina, from my baby shower because I think she's in love with my husband 33-year-old male, and I met each other at a ski lodge 9 years ago. I was with my young daughter and a female friend and her child. My husband was with his 2 brothers and 3 sisters and a few friends. There was a singing competition and both of us were set up by our friends to enter it. Sparks flew during our duet, and the rest is history. Back to our first meeting. This was the first time I caught on to my sister-in-law's disturbing behavior. After the singing competition, he and I went to the cafe to chat. His middle sister Tina, who was adopted at birth, came storming up to us and demanded he come back to their group. She never looked at me and whined when he shut her down. She ran off crying and apparently took her sister's room key cards and locked them out, so they had to stay with the friends in their room. Fast forward to when we bought a house together. We had a housewarming and invited family and close friends. Tina showed up in a screw club outfit. She ignored me the entire time and hung all over my husband, boyfriend at the time. She kept recalling tales of them when they were little and how close they were. She'd kiss him on the cheek, hug him, and touch his arm while laughing. He was visibly uncomfortable, so I stepped in. At first, I just thought she had a crush on him, but the way she was acting looked like she was the girlfriend and not me. She was going around reminding or telling everyone that he used to say he never wanted to have kids, but now he's playing daddy to my daughter. One of my friends said she thought Tennant was weird for talking about how hot his modeling photos were when he did print work back in college, and that her favorite photo was of them at a beach in Hawaii during a family vacation a few years back. The most bizarre thing she told a few people was that he had never dated a woman of color before, and now all of a sudden he's in love. It's only bizarre to me because she's biracial, so I don't know why this would bother her, unless she's jealous of me because she wished she were me. Then things go south at the end of the night when he gets down on one knee and proposes to me. She started crying and ran to the restroom. Their dad went to check on her and then drove her home. I knew exactly why she was upset, but my husband always equated her behavior to jealousy because she never had healthy relationships. After that tantrum, she skipped our wedding, baby shower, our children's birthday parties, and other family events that we attended. I was fine with extending invitations because I knew she wasn't going to show up. She had some sort of mental breakdown and was in and out treatment for years. Now I have to say, I wish nothing but the best for her, and I don't know what kind of issues she's going through, but I don't want her disrupting our peace. I'm currently pregnant and our baby shower is at the end of this month. I'm having it a few months early because I'm at risk of going into labor early like I did with my other 2 children. My mother-in-law called to respond. Please, and stated Tina would be riding with them, and if it was okay if she brought her new boyfriend. I was surprised because we hadn't seen her in years, but I was apprehensive to agree. Eventually, I did agree and hope that she resolved whatever caused her so much distress when she was around my family. Well, it took all of 24 hours for her to start her nonsense. She texts my husband paragraphs at 3 a.m. telling him how she felt about our family. First, she went on to say how much she missed them being close, and how I came in and destroyed their close relationship when I barely said 50 words to her in 9 years. She asked him if he was happy with his life, because again, he used to say he never wanted kids or to get married. She then asked if he thought about her all this time, and if he could meet up with him before the shower and talk alone, face to face. That was the last straw for me. I asked my husband if he knew she was in love with him, and he just shrugged and said he didn't doubt my theory. Apparently, when she was 11, she asked if they could cuddle and kiss, and he said no. He admits her behavior since then has always been weird and dramatic, but he didn't pay her much attention because there were many siblings and they all hung out all the time. I asked him if he could uninvite her and this new boyfriend because I think she's gonna bring drama to our baby shower. He said he wants to talk to his parents first to see what kind of state she's been in, but I know in my gut that she's ready to ruin our day with her feet tricks. So am I the a-hole for wanting to uninvite her to the baby shower? Edith, for those of you wondering if anything intimate ever happened between them, the answer is no. I am 100% certain of this. He has a total of 3 adopted siblings, 2 female and 1 male. He says he sees them as blood-related siblings because the 3 of them were adopted at birth. He's the second youngest, and they're all within 1 to 4 years of each other, so all he knows them as siblings. He said he chooses to ignore her because she's always been dramatic. He's always worried about her physical safety because she's suffered from depression for as long as he can remember, so he tries to handle things gently. He's not opposed to inviting her, but he does want to know what his parents think about her mental state and whether she can behave. Second idiot, so I keep seeing something about High School Musical. I'm a little too old to have watched that show, but didn't know about that plot. I changed some details of how we met so this post wouldn't be immediately recognizable, but it's very much, unfortunately, my life right now. My husband is on his way home right now, despite having another 3 hours left at work because his phone kept blowing up. He didn't sound good on the phone, but he wouldn't tell me what was wrong. I don't want to call his mom and other sister to ask what's going on, but I'll try to post an update when hopefully we come to a final solution because I'm stressed and over this. Now for the top of comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. Your husband needs to shut this down now. Her behavior is obsessive. The fact it's not only still ongoing after years, but even escalating is dangerous as well as unhealthy. Given you are the target for her delusions that puts you and your children at potential risk, everyone involved needs to get their heads out of the sand and take this seriously. He needs to make it perfectly clear that he is not interested in a romantic relationship with her, that her behavior needs to stop and decide on the consequences if she continues. If he refuses to do this, you don't have a sister-in-law problem, you have a husband problem. She needs a better therapist or treatment plan, as whatever she's used so far seems to not have been effective. For the time being, it may be in your best interest to set boundaries about her not being allowed around you and the kids. This 100%. I don't think there's any way to overreact to what potential threat she could be to you or your family. If you have a gut feeling that something is wrong, you should always follow it. It sounds like the family is burying their heads in the sand because they don't want to deal with the fact that she's obsessed with her brother in such an unhealthy way. Not that obsession is ever healthy. Being gentle with her because of her mental health isn't going to help her get better. It just allows the behavior to continue. The fact that she keeps dismissing your children with the never wanted kids would also be very concerning to me. Please follow your instincts and don't worry about family harmony. Worry about your family's safety. You don't have a sister-in-law problem, you have a husband problem. Oh yeah, him avoiding the issue isn't helping his sister either. He needs to tell her in no uncertain terms that it's never gonna happen, that she's weirding him out, and that's it. Never, no way, absolutely not. Maybe they'll give her the shock or reality check. She needs to actually put this in the past. I know people can be conflict avoidant, but he's making everyone else deal with his SHT, and it's not fair and detrimental to them. Now for the update 10 hours later. Update. This will probably be my last update since my husband and I decided that we need to be completely removed from our sister-in-law's drama or trauma so we can focus on having a healthy pregnancy and family life. I have an appointment with a primatologist, a high-risk prenatal doc, tomorrow morning that was scheduled weeks ago to check on the baby. Thank you to those who were concerned about me and the baby, so I don't even know where to start, so I apologize if this update seems all over the place. I also have to point out for the person who went through my comment history, I switched the numbers, genders, and event details, so I wasn't as easily identified in real life. I have a professional license, so if someone recognized me and thought I was being unethical due to the nature of the post, I have avoided certain verbiage because of my job. I could be brought in for a review, which I would much like to avoid, so I'm sorry, I can't be 100% truthful with all of the details. I tried my best to keep the most important information as factual as possible. My husband ran home because Tina blew up his phone, texting and calling. Now my husband always texts or calls me on his lunch break to check on me, even before the pregnancy, so I knew something was wrong when he didn't. Since he left Tina on read, she started calling and sending a slew of unwarranted and degrading texts about me and our children, so basically Tina being Tina. He didn't run it by me, but he sent her a long paragraph, which he showed me when he got home, basically telling her off and told her that he would rather never speak to her again than listen to her talk bad about our family. He told her she would never be invited to any of our family functions, and that she needed to check herself back into the hospital if she thought their sibling relationship was ever closer than it actually was. He closed it by saying he would let the family know the reason she was uninvited, and that he hoped she'd either seen a therapist or would find one immediately. I'm not surprised at his response because the things she said pushed him to that breaking point. I think the worst thing she said was that my 2 miscarriages years ago, which would have been our first child together, was caused because we don't actually belong together, and that my body couldn't even carry any of my children to term 32 and 33 weeks deliveries. I expected her to bring something like this up, but I could tell it really hurt him, and that's why he didn't hold back from her. He then blocked her and told me he's changing our phone numbers. He called his parents and the oldest bio sister, whom Guy is close with, and explained to them why she's never allowed to visit our home. He shared all of their text exchanges and that we're mortified. He asked them not to share our address, and when we changed to new numbers, they'd assured us that none of them shared this information with her, because she actually asked for his work schedule and mentioned driving up a day early to surprise him. My father-in-law had the most to say, and I'd get it. It's his baby girl, but he hadn't shared much info beforehand with anyone besides his wife. He said he always knew she had a little crush on him, but after her outburst at our housewarming years ago, they had a conversation about her behavior, and she told him that she had been keeping a diary about him since she was a teenager. She explained it was to process her emotions and to challenge negative thoughts. All I heard was that she wrote about him for years. So there's several journals in their home, probably enforcing her beliefs. Apparently she only stayed away from my husband because my father-in-law kept her in check and was able to get her hospitalized several times for being a threat to herself. I don't know if all her issues stem from her unrequited love for him. Typing that just made me nauseous. But I hope she gets the help she desperately needs. He asked that they speak with her about his last text, but that we don't want to know the outcome. They told us they would deal with her and apologize for thinking she had resolved her issues. My in-laws are saints, and I thank them for believing us and keeping her away for all these years. Luckily, she's currently living with them due to her issues, so they're going to speak to her tomorrow morning. The bio sister-in-law called me when we got off the phone with the in-laws. She told me that she was really sorry because she's the one who hooked the new boyfriend and Tina up and suggested that she show him off at the baby shower, but admitted they had only been dating for like 2 weeks. She said she sent the text Tina sent to my husband to her boyfriend because that's one of her best guy friends and she wanted to protect him. So I'm pretty sure they're probably not a thing anymore. I'm kind of nervous how Tina will deal with 2 rejections so close together. The 2 sisters aren't that close, and she was audibly disgusted to find out that her sister has been pining for their brother all these years. She has a theory though. She thinks it started with the older bio brother Scene, because when Tina was little, she would follow Scene around all the time. He's older, so he went off to college abroad. Tina was about 10, and then he permanently moved to Europe. It seems like the crush was transferred to my husband when Scene left. Scene hasn't been back to the States since he graduated high school, and no one really has contact with him, so she said she can't call and ask him about it. I have to admit I'm kind of curious and would have been interested in hearing what Scene had to say, but I'll rest assured knowing our involvement in the whole thing is over. Someone pointed out that Tina is potentially dangerous and could hurt me or our children, and this really scared me. My husband is going to upgrade our alarm system and purchase more cameras. I don't work summers and will most likely be out on bed rest by the time I have to go back to work. So if you wanted to ensure the kids and I were safe when he's away from the house. I forgot to mention we live about 5 hours away, so she would really have to go out of her way to show up here if she somehow found out where we live. So that's it, basically. This will most likely be my only update. I also want to point out for those that think my husband was intimate with her at some point to cause her erratic behavior. If that were the case, she would have loved to throw that in my face over and over. Plus, a guilty man would have tried to silence her a long time ago to keep me from finding out. You don't have to trust him, but I do. Thanks again for all the helpful input. I'm feeling a little more at ease and can't wait to see our closest friends and family at our shower. Story 3. Am I the a-hole for showing up to guys' night after my husband didn't come home when he said he would? My husband has been hanging out with his guy friends every weekend for about a month. It generally doesn't bother me at all, but lately he has been saying, I will be home after this beer. And that one beer turns into 6 and him coming home in an Uber around 3 to 4 a.m. And well, I want to hang out with my husband. There's never any ill blood or fighting about it. I know he needs his friends as we are currently going through a stressful time and he needs to decompress. However, when he went out on Saturday, I told him, if you weren't home by 8, I'm coming to find your A. He laughed, said he would be home by 8, and that was it. Well, by 9 he still wasn't home. I knew this was going to happen, so I planned it all out. I had already gone to the store and picked up a 30 rack, and this is actually kind of embarrassing, but I threw on some of his clothes, put my hair up and put a hat on to make myself look more manly and headed over to his buddy's house where I knew he was. When I walk through the door, my husband starts laughing and bear hugs me. His buddies, I'm close to 3 of them, were also heavily amused and thanked me for the beer. There was no issue there. However, one of the guys that I don't know all that well lives next door, and his wife came over livid at like 2 a.m. and started scolding him about being out so late, etc., etc. They have a baby at home, so it's 100% understandable. As soon as she saw me standing there, SHT hit the fan even more. She started accusing him of lying about it being guys' night. I did interject and say that I actually invited myself after my own husband didn't come home when he said, but she just put her hand up to me and told her husband to get home. I thought that would be the end of it, but my husband actually got a text from this guy yesterday saying that me showing up caused serious issues in his marriage and that next time he should tell me to stay the screw home. My husband obviously laughed it off and said it isn't my fault there's issues in their marriage and that he was amused by me showing up, but now I feel utterly terrible. Am I in a hole?